Joe, I guess how different is year 2 with Bo going into game 1 versus a year ago?
Yeah, quite a few things. A little bit like we experienced in training camp. Just a higher comfort level. More familiar with our offense, so he's certainly got things that it's easy for him to verbalize what he likes, and certain things that he wants that maybe he wasn't ready to do that last year. So much more collaborative with him now, and I think he's excited to go.
Joe, what is the stability that J.K. Dobbins theoretically give you guys, especially third down, pass pro, backfield? What have you seen?
Yeah, he's a pro with a lot of experience, so there's really a complete back, you'd say. Nothing that you're concerned that you got to keep him out of. Like you said, third down, he can handle it. Knows who to block and is physically able to do so. Good runner, good receiver. Just and I think all our guys that are going to be playing are kind of that mold. We feel historically you've kind of had a back that filled this role, and then you had your lightning back who may be more of a receiver and a change of pace back, and we just feel like all our guys can do everything, and that's makes it a lot more easy to personnel all your plays. You're not worried about which running back's in there. They all can handle it, so makes it a lot easier.
How has RJ come along? Obviously pass pro is kind of the growth for him. How has he come along with that?
I think really good. I think in another year he'll be even better. But for a rookie, I think he's on point and dialed in, and if he's in there on third down, we have no concerns.
Joe, he was a pretty good high school quarterback that threw obviously a bunch of touchdowns and went to play quarterback college. When you have guys that were quarterbacks that moved to running back, receiver, tight end, how much of a leg up can that be when they were in a complex?
Yeah, I think there's when you grow up as a quarterback, there's a mental aspect to that position where you learn the whole game maybe a little faster than if you were a running back your whole life. So there's certainly an intelligence there, an experience factor there with seeing the whole picture that helps with protections. He's quarterback friendly. He knows what a quarterback would like when he's running a route. How to, the tempo of when he, gives the quarterback. Indicators as far as what he's doing. So I think it's a good point. I think that's a big reason why he's a good player and a smart player.
Joe, yesterday Coach said that the Titans in their 3 wins last year had success stopping the offense on third down. That was a big key. What's the key to converting on third down, especially early in the season?
Yeah, I think I think it all starts with protection. They have a good pressure package that stresses you. They've got good games with their defensive linemen, their linebackers pressuring and picking. And so and they've got good players to rush the quarterback. So, making sure the quarterback's comfortable in the pocket. The details with our route running, adjusting how you run your route versus zone and man, and getting into the routes, not getting disrupted. They do a good job with that as well. So it's just all 11 guys playing together and executing. But yeah, you're right. I think 4 times they held teams under 30% third down last year. They won 3 of them. So it's certainly a key to convert third downs and keep getting shots on goal. Helps score points for sure.
Well, Nik Bonitto, how do you feel about the extension?
Excited for him. Obviously it speaks to Coach and George. Drafting, developing, and retaining players. Right? That's the way in the league here, so it's fun to see a guy who's worked so hard and play good football for us get rewarded.
What can you say about the work Nick's put in over the last couple of years to go from where he was as a rookie to have 8 sacks the next year and last year to break out?
I think last year he finally was on the field, enough to show his production. Our first year here, he was on a good run for about 4 games. He got injured, so last year was his first time, playing extended games and having top 5 production. So I think Nik is a player that's still growing. The best for Nik is ahead of him, and he knows that, and he's excited to play on Sunday.
He's obviously up to 250 now, and those kind of other areas of his game set and pass rush he's working on. What have you seen in the development for him there as a true kind of all-around edge guy as opposed to just a speed rush guy?
You said it. He's definitely changed his body. He's playing a run game very well. He's got this get-off that no one else has, and that's run and pass game alike. And he's a finisher. Again, our first year, he would get home and not finish the proper way. but he's learned how to finish. He's gained weight. He's gotten stronger on the edge, and he's a problem. If teams don't have a plan for him, he can wreck a game. So again, he's so humble. He's still working. He's a young player. He gets that. So I think the best is still ahead, which is good for us.
We talked about the get off, and then
Yeah.
we asked you about comparing him to Vaughn. You're like, I don't want to go there, but that was a couple years ago. So
Yeah.
does he have that level of unique?
I think it's different than Vaughn. I think Vaughn's probably more of a powerful player at the point of attack. Nick's got a little bit of both, but he's more of a slippery bender on the edge, and he can also play with power. But I've never seen a guy with his instincts just run past linemen, and again, not just pass, but the run game. He's a problem in the run game. Backside counters and boat guard and tackle pulls. Man, he's chasing the back down. He's taking a handoff. That's special traits. And if it's a block, he has to close. He can close it. So he can feel it like no one I've ever coached. And again, man, he's still learning. He's still growing as a player. And he's so humble. He's working every single day. He's a guy who was negotiating the contract the entire camp. Never one word about not practicing. Never one word about sitting out, man. He played through an ankle and a foot injury for 2 weeks. Didn't say a word. So that speaks to his character.
Coach,
You talk about those.
with Greenlaw, kind of being iffy.
Mm-hmm.
What can you say about the guys behind him, Sternad, Bailey, Craney?
I think you're always prepared, Mike. For your guys to step up and play. Any position, linebacker, safety, corner. It's early in the week, but every single week, every guy on our roster, practice squad included, has to be ready to play. So no worries there. Dre's working hard, and we'll see what happens on Sunday. But we have guys who are capable.
What kind of challenges does Cam Ward give to you and your defense? Not only because of he's a rookie and there's no film on him, but also just his skill set.
Yeah, he's super talented. He's the first pick of the draft for a reason. When you watch the guy play, you see a guy with special arm talent. He's got this unique poise about him for a young guy, man. He's trying to make big plays, and I think that's part of, some young quarterbacks try not to mess it up. He's trying to make a big play, and that makes him dangerous. That makes him ultra dangerous, man. And he's trying to put a dagger in you every single down, And he can really moving left, moving right. He can throw the ball 60, 70 yards in the air. So it only takes one play for him to, make a big play. So how we rush this guy, how we contain him, stopping the run and trying to make him one-dimensional is going to be key, and putting some pressure on him. But if he has free access, he's going to hit him. If they open 7 times, it's going to be 7 for 7. So we have to get on the bodies of his receivers and challenge the throws. Most rookies, you think, well, let's play zone and make him work through layers of coverage. Not this guy. He's going to fit it in there. So it's definitely having the right plan for this guy because he's talented.
When you look at just their offense as a whole, Pollard, a year better than the injury, and I guess just some of Ward's weapons.
Yeah.
What are you looking
When I first watched the offense, I wasn't sure about Pollard. Man, he's a hell of a player. The more I watch this dude, man, this dude can really play. He was obviously a receiver in college, so he can catch the football. But he's a one-cut runner. He gets vertical. He breaks tackles. He can push the pocket. He's good in space. So he's a real guy, And then they've got Ridley. In my opinion, he's a top 10 receiver in this league. His speed, his stop and start, his ball skills are elite. So it's going to be a challenge. They fixed the O-line. That's the first, goal for an offense to get better. It's up front, and the coaching's really good, right? Watching every game from last year over the summer, they had really good game plans last year. Every single game, the run game through Callahan is special. So it's going to be a challenge, guys. It's going to be an NFL game on Sunday. It won't be easy for us. And again, it's the first game of the season. We're not sure what this kid's going to do well, or poorly. So that also makes it difficult, especially early in the game.
Coach Bradley Moss has told us that he's gained some weight this offseason. Have you seen that translate to the field, and how does his game look this offseason?
He definitely looks a lot stronger and more stout on the corner. But he's a great athlete. So the movement stuff never changed. Jumping, running, changed direction. He's obviously gotten better from last season. He's been healthy, all camp, and he's working. And Raleigh's best trait, man, is he's tough. being opposite of Pat. I mean, he's resilient. So if they make one play, he's going to make two. You know, and he never backs down. He tackles well. So I'm excited to see his growth also on Sunday.
At a unit level, how do you talk about expectations? I mean, obviously they're high, internally, externally. So this time of year before you, outside of the season, how do you talk about that?
I tell you, man, you know, it's tricky, you know, because we should be good, you know, but you have to work to be good. And defensively, we can't punt. You know, so we can't go out there and just, you know, play bad for 2 downs and then punt. We got to get them stopped. So it's different on defense. So obviously to be good, you know, you have to have players, and we do have players. We have a good scheme. Guys play hard. You know, we have the right pieces in the right positions. But in this league, every play matters, and you know, someone can fall, someone can miss a tackle. You know, and now you go from giving up 21 to 28. So it's a fine line. You know, it's day to day, week to week. You know, we talk about just doing our jobs, you know, and playing together, playing downhill on our terms, you know, those things, not really about expectations, right? Every team should have those. Every defense should have those, you know, so we're no different, you know, but we get the media. We kind of ignore it because we have to. It's silly to listen to that stuff because it's hard on Sundays. And we get that.
How are we doing, guys?
Hey, Coach, you've worked a lot of places, and obviously you had one preseason game, but outside of your game one in front of the Broncos home crowd here and having your kickers get to kick out of my eyes?
Yeah, me personally very excited. You know, it was a kind of a crazy last year for me, obviously, and you know, I think the decision to come here in this organization is one that I'm super excited about. Finally get to play a real game. You know, that's always good. The special teams, I think I told you guys, is the worst for the special teams coaches. The preseason, kind of narrow the roster down now and kind of get after it. So really looking forward to our guys getting out there. Really looking forward to playing a regular season game in front of the home crowd. So.
How important are these 2 weeks from roster cut down to the first week for you to get all those guys on the same page because you've had so many different parts?
That's a great point. You know, we try to evaluate a lot of players, and so there's some guys on some of the units that haven't played a ton, and so these practices are really important to us. Obviously, you're a little bit more game plan specific. I think in the preseason, you kind of, you know, league-wide, you see a lot of generic special teams. And that's why in the beginning of the season here, it's ultra important to protect, to cover. All those things are paramount. So we're trying to stress that in our meetings and obviously on the practice field as well.
In a big picture, how eager are you to see what the league does from the kickoff perspective? Obviously, you worked a lot on it to see, are they still kicking touchbacks? Are they kicking to teams? How much are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think from a fan perspective, I've mentioned this before, I think you're going to see a lot more balls in play. You saw a lot of that in the preseason. You saw a lot of coaches working on it, working on their scheme, working on the kickoff, working on the kickoff return. You know, I'm eager to see what the numbers are. I think we kind of have an idea what it's going to look like. I think analytically, statistically, you're going to probably put the ball in play unless it's a situational thing. And so, you know, I'm looking forward to, you know, a little of a tweak in the kickoff return formations. You've seen some of that here in the preseason. But no, I'm really looking forward to something we're going to kind of keep track of, you know, week to week.
When you were putting together the depth chart, what did you see from Jaleel and Tyler Bidet in the return game? Like, how did you kind of decipher where to put guys?
Yeah, you know, Jaleel, I'll start with Jaleel. Jaleel kind of surprised me. You know, when I first got here, I thought Jaleel might have been a little bit more one-dimensional, maybe just, you know, a guy with the ball in his hand. But Jaleel actually went out and, you know, in the practices we had against San Fran in Arizona, we put him in some different spots, some blocking, some jammer outside on some gunners. So he's actually proven to do, you know, more jobs than I probably would have given him credit for when I first got here. Some of those jobs that maybe the defensive backs can do or wide receivers. So multi-dimensional. Tyler, we've moved him around a bunch too. Both guys have kind of played on all 4. Obviously, Bidet had the nice return in the last preseason game. But I'm very, you know, pleased with both guys. You know, I didn't know them either guy very well coming in. But, you know, so far, you know, what they've shown me in this preseason are 2 guys that can help the cause for sure.
How much nicer is it for you to know that you got a solid veteran kicker and a snapper that's done it for a long time when you have a rookie punter versus having a bunch of new guys that you're starting 2 of 3 if not all?
You know, I think rookie at any position, right? A rookie at any position, there's always going to be some growing pains, whether it's you know, quarterback, kicker, punter, skill player, you know, cover guy. Listen, I'm obviously known Will Lutz a long time. You know, we worked together in New Orleans. That was one of the things I was really happy to come here and knowing that he was here. I think Mitch has proven the last couple of years that he's obviously done a really good job. I think they make the transition for a rookie punter that much easier when you have veterans. You know, I've been in this situation where you bring in 2 rookies out of the 3, and that, you know, sometimes that can go haywire. So having some consistency there with those 2 guys, just little things that maybe the fans wouldn't think about, just a daily routine, for example, what to do on your off days. The NFL is a lot different than college in that way, and so, you know, today's a good example. On a Thursday today, you know, was a down day for the kickers. You know, what to do on the day, whether they're getting their workouts, the recovery, the stretching, all that stuff, and so to have that experience with those 2 guys for Jeremy is a big deal.
Time for 2 more.
Sean mentioned that you had the idea to kind of bring Jeremy in for 1 punt and then keep going with the offensive defensive period. But where did that come from, and how have you seen that kind of pay off?
Yeah, you know, it's a good question. It actually started a long time ago on the field goal side of things. I've dealt with, you know, rookies obviously in all 3 spots, but you know, special teams is like no other, right? There is no second down. It's one and done, and it's perform or don't perform. And so, you know, a long time ago as a young coach, I was one of those guys that went out and we kicked 12 field goals in a row, and then over time you're starting to learn that that's not really how you play the game. And if you hit the first one not so well, now you can, you know, imagine being on the driving range, right? Or you get a mulligan. There's no mulligans, and so it's one and done. And so, you know, when we do these punt periods, we thought it was important to create a game-like atmosphere for Jeremy, to bring him out, 1 play and done. Because you guys have seen him at practice and training camp. He can get in a really good rhythm and a really good routine, and then he's really banging the ball. We thought it was important to kind of, you know, we had such a small sample size in the preseason. He's only had 6 punts in his career in the preseason. That's good news, bad news. Our offense was on the field and moving the ball. The bad news is he didn't get a lot of experience, and so we try to make some game-like atmosphere for him in practice. That's kind of where that came from, but it actually started a long time ago on the field goal side of things, where with the field goal kickers, you know, don't come out and kick 10 in a row. Come out, get 1 or 2 like a game. Just try to create as much of a game-like environment as you can. We thought that was important for the rookie. Yeah.
And how did he respond to it?
I think he's been good. You know, we still have our punt period because we got to get our protection stuff. We got to get our calls and everything. But I think, you know, Sean was obviously very receptive to it. Jeremy's been good, and you know, we did that probably the last, whatever it was, 4 or 5 times that he's been up and active for that day, and so the results have been good. But as you guys know, there's results in practice and there are results on the field, so we got to bring it to the game. So.